COVID-19. The document is titled Reconstruction, Growth and Transformation, Building a New Inclusive Economy. It suggests that pension funds take over certain restructured Eskom assets and finance infrastructure build, and that the Reserve Bank should be owned by the state. Now, that document was formally launched by the head of the ANC's Economic Transformation Committee, Enoch Godongwana, on Friday. He joins us via Zoom now. Mr. Godongwana, welcome. Firstly, your response to those who say that the National Development Plan has not been implemented properly. Why is the ANC not focusing on implementing economic policy that's been devised, but rather on coming up with more?
Those who criticize the document on those bases are missing the point. In the document, we say we're not creating a new policy framework, but we're borrowing on existing policy frameworks, from the RDP to the NDP, by the way. So there's no substance in that criticism. The reason we've gone back to the RDP is precisely because if you look at the fault lines revealed by the coronavirus at the moment, is the fact that people can't do all the protocols, including physical distancing, water and sanitation, because we failed to invest in those underdeveloped areas. And that's what RDP wanted us to do.
So, I mean, you raised this crucial point. South Africa is one of the most unequal societies in the world. COVID-19, like you say, has further highlighted the divide between rich and poor, between black and white. This is always talked about, though. So are these policy proposals here something that could actually work towards achieving equality?
Precisely, because what we're saying, the starting point, given the fact that our trading partners are slow also in opening their economies. So we've got to first sequence our intervention and prioritize the area we think we can have control over, which is infrastructure spending. And therefore, that infrastructure is got a number of effects. First is investment in the poor, in the underdeveloped areas. And secondly, construction has got the capacity to absorb even the unskilled labor force, which dominates the unemployed workforce in the country.
All right, so infrastructure, a big focus, and let's look at some of the elements of this policy document, which you say isn't any new policy, but a conglomeration of what's been in the past. But this will be controversial, the nationalization of the Reserve Bank. So right now, the bank is always pointing out that the ownership makes no difference at all. If the Reserve Bank is constitutionally independent, does it really matter who owns the bank?
It's going to be controversial to those who want to sensationalize things. The conference announced a decision that we must deal what we called the historical anomaly, in the sense that since the Second World War, a number of central banks have gone into public hands. That's what we've referred to as a historical anomaly. That's what, merely stating that that's what the ANC has preferred in NASREC. We're not reinventing the wheel in that document. And secondly, NASREC said we should not tamper with the independence of the Reserve Bank.
So the ANC is committed to maintaining the independence of the Reserve Bank?
Definitely. That's what we've said in conference.
You say it should be done in a manner that does not unfairly enrich certain private shareholders who seek to abuse the situation. So it's interesting how the shares are capped. They cost a certain amount, but the bank has... No problem, Mr. Godongwana. I know you picked up that call. Let's pick up the... You've put it away. The Reserve Bank has been warning that forcing a sale is actually what the shareholders want right now, those private shareholders, because it could mean that they can suddenly lay claim to billions in reserves. Is it possible to get around that?
That's precisely what we're saying. The resolution itself says in conference, in considering this action, we must make sure that we don't enrich speculators. So it's a resolution which is properly crafted so that the action we take must be one that is cautious.
All right, now another, you may say it's not controversial, but people are worried about pension funds being used to bail out state-owned entities. Good money going after bad. Explain the proposals now that pension funds will take over certain restructured Eskom assets.
There are two issues we're raising in that document. The first one is that we've got to and change Regulation 28 and incentivize pension trustees to prioritize the infrastructure as an asset class. That's the first thing we're putting forward in that document. The second point we're raising, there's this whole debate about putting money into Eskom. There has been a whole range of criticism that of looting that want to put money into a dark hole. We're saying maybe if people to make transparent in such an intervention, we're not making it as a kind of a must do. We're saying it may well be that the best way for pension funds, if they want to put more money, is to ring fence certain assets. Let me just give you an example. If two pension funds think that they want to invest in Eskom, they can buy two of Eskom's power stations, whether it's Litabo or Matimba, and then in turn Eskom take the money and service the debt. But the pension fund, their money will be transparent, and they will know that they're going to get revenues from those power stations.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying it won't be forced; it will be voluntary. Is that correct?
Correct.
By the pension funds themselves. I guess everybody just wants to know their pension money will grow, will be put in investments that can yield returns. So are you saying Eskom can actually provide that?
I can show Eskom would be reluctant to release some of those key assets because they're also generating income for them. So we are saying pension funds must invest in any assets that will generate returns for pensioners. That's our argument. If you look at the IPPs, those are generation assets that are generating electricity. A lot of people are investing. In fact, there's a cry for Mr. Mandashe to issue Section 35 for round 5, for window 5, because everybody knows that we're making money in IPPs.
Yeah. Mr. Godongwana, a final question. It seems like the ANC wants the state to play a bigger role in the economy. But looking at, what's being exposed at the Zondo Commission, serious claims by state players, some would say the state should actually play a smaller role and should allow the private sector more scope to do what it should be doing, which is creating jobs.
Let me put two things. First, there's no historical precedent throughout the world at the moment where as the state has been finally and successfully retrenched from executing its major developmental role throughout the world. That's the first point I want to make. The second point, a closer reading of the document says, under the state, there's a misunderstanding of the role of the state as that of merely public investment and ownership, forgetting a critical role the state must play in guiding players into the economy so that its role is not purely restricted to ownership, but is that of guidance and leadership.
All right. We have to leave it there. I appreciate the clarity always on those ANC documents. That was the head of the ANC's Economic Transformation Committee, Enoch Godongwana. Now, it's Mandela Month leading up to the global icon's birthday next Saturday. Scarves and beanies have been